Hey everybody, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a quick tutorial on how to make yourself an arch in Blender. I'm going to be doing two parts of this tutorial. The first part will just be using a single object. The other part will be doing two different irregular objects like bricks or something. So it's very easy. All I do, we're going to go to the cycles render on the top tab right there. I want to resize this cube to make it, somewhat like an arch shape. So I'm going to really quickly go to 7, numpad 7. And then hit 5 to put it in the grid view. Hit S to resize. You can see I'm resizing, and we're going to do it on the x-axis first, just a little bit, and then the y-axis, like that. So if we go here, we have a nice long brick. So we're going to actually resize on the z-axis, S and Z. So S for the resize, and then the axis, so X, Y, or Z. So now we have a nice little brick shape. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate that because I like that shape. We're going to do, like I said, we're going to do two parts of the tutorial, so I'm going to keep that over there. And I'm going to resize this back up. So for the first part, like I said, we're using a singular object, so you do want to make this z-axis a little bigger because you're going to have this curve and bend in a 180-degree arch. So you want to have it long enough that it'll have some room to bend, or else it'll look really weird or fat. So it's nice and thin, it'll have a nice arch to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rotate it, and I'll show you how to do that. So first what we want to do is we have our cursor messed up, and let's say the geometry's off. So for this axis isn't where we want it to be. So we're going to do Shift Control Alt C. We're going to do the origin to the geometry. It was already done, but let's say your geometry's off. And our cursor's still over here, so we're going to do Shift and S, cursor to active, and then we're going to do Control numpad 7 to go to the bottom view. So 7 is the top view, Control 7 is bottom view. And we're going to click on this cursor right in the little middle of it. So now we are directly, our cursor is directly on the bottom of our arch, the beginning of our arch, which is exactly what we want, and you'll see why in a second. So we're going to do Shift and A. We're going to add a plane axis. So if you go to empty, plane axes, it's exactly how we want it, just at the bottom there. So what this is basically the point, the pivot point for our arch and where it's going to rotate from, if that makes any sense. So if we didn't do it, it would actually probably rotate from the middle of the geometry. Now this point will be where we are rotating the arch from. So we're going to rotate it on the y-axis 90 degrees so that it rotates outwards and not up, or else it won't do anything. So now that we've rotated on the y-axis, we're going to click our object. Make sure you don't move it by any chance. Go to your before we do this, what we also do is hit Z to go into your wireframe mode. You can see that there's only, if you press tab to go to your edit mode, or you can just go down here, hit edit mode, you will see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices that we have. So if we hit A to deselect everything, if you're already selected, hit A to deselect. We have only 8 vertices. It's not going to be enough to make the arch out of. So what we want to do is we're going to do Control R, which is adding a loop cut, and we're going to add a loop cut to the middle. Hit Escape. Do another loop cut in the middle of this one. Escape, and keep doing that until you get pretty much some squares. You can actually go into the front view with 3. And you can kind of see what the geometry will look like. So let's do Control R till we have some square shapes. And if they're not squares, you at least probably want them to be shorter on this axis, the y-axis, so they're evenly distributed when you do the arch. You can imagine these as like a spinal cord or something. It's going to be turning, so you want to keep it just keep it thin. And then we're going to do Control R to divide the middle part. Make sure it's the side middle, the wider piece. Hit Escape to get out of that. So when you do Control R and you hit Escape, it just puts the loop cut, it subdivides it where the origin was. So now we're going to hit A and deselect everything, and now you can see it's pretty much divided perfectly. So we do want to add a little more subdivision so it's a little smoother. So we're going to hit A again. Subdivide it once, subdivide it twice, as many as you want. I think that's fine. 2 is fine for me. Depends on the scale of yours, but this looks fine to me. So now our arch is pretty much ready to be turned. So we can get out of edit mode, go to our modifiers, and we're going to do a modifier add simple deform. And right now, if you go to Z to get out of wireframe, you can see it twists this way. This is not what we want. We actually want it to bend. So if we click bend, it turns like a piece of a pie chart or something. It's not what you want. So we want to add the origin to be that empty. And now you can see it's curving on the y-axis because we rotate on the y-axis. So if we rotate it back, let's do rotate y negative 90. It actually just keeps it rotating circularly. So we don't want that. We want to rotate on the y-axis. So ry 90. Don't undo what I did. I was just showing you for reference, but this is what we want. All we have to change now is we go back to our object on the modifier tab, and you can see we have our origin as the empty, but the angle is only 45 degrees. So an arch is half a circle, which 360 degrees divided by 2, that's 180, and you have your arch. You can put smooth shading on, and that's pretty much what you want. If you want, you can even add a loop cut. Let's do a little loop cut here. Go to tab, control mode. Oh, you know, we'd have to do that. We can do that after we apply this mob. So let's do this. Oh, before we do this, let me show you one more thing. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked. I'm going to show you guys how you can resize the scale or the distance of your arch. So let's say you want a different distance. You're going to do G to move on this. You're going to click on your axis and do G to move it. And we're going to move on the y-axis, which is, if you look at it, that's the axis that it's scaling on. And if you move it towards the arch, it gets longer. Move it away from the arch, it gets shorter. So I'm actually going to keep it how it is. I like just how it is right now. We're going to go back to our modifier tab on the object, apply it, and it's all good. We can actually delete this empty. So that's how you make an arch. It's really easy. If you guys want to stick around for the next part of the tutorial, that's going to be how to use it with different size, different bricks and stuff. So this part we can actually go to our top-down view, and we're going to do a loop cut on this little edge right here. Move it out. Do another one on this edge, move it out, and that'll flatten these edges out. So if we go to our render view, you can see it's nice and flat. Looking good, looking good. Just add some material or some texturing to it and it'll look nice. So now we're going to move this out of here, bring this to the middle. Doesn't have to be exact middle, but anyway, so now I'm going to show you guys how to do two different bricks and lay that into an arch. So we're actually going to rotate this, hit 7, numpad 7 to get into our top view. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees. The only reason I did that is because you could tell before we were rotating it on the y-axis this way, so we want, you can imagine if I duplicate this by Shift D, bring it up, I go to the little magnet tool here, snap, and we're going to change that to faces, and we're going to bring this down on this face, so it's right on the object, and we can actually go to our tab right here to go into edit mode, hit faces, A to deselect everything. We're going to extrude this face, so we're going to right click here, extrude on the y-axis by E and then Y. So all I did was I went down here, hit faces, hit this face, whichever face is going to be the inner brick. We're going to do it slightly on the Y with E and Y, and then we're going to put it like right about there. So this is basically going to be a curving arch, and it's going to have like the little inlaid uneven bricks. The other method is, if you don't like that, you can just slide this over slightly. It doesn't really matter, or you can resize this on the Y and or the X. I'm just going to do it like that. I kind of like it like this look, so it's, if you're doing like a wall or something, it'll kind of be inlaid at a different angle, or not different angle, but like a different size to it. It'll look more uneven. It'll look nice. So we're going to turn this into one object. At least I am. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to. I'm going to do Control J. You don't really have to. This is just a personal thing I like to do. So actually, you know what? I'm going to resize this just slightly on the X-axis with S and X, just a little bit, so it gives it some uneven texture. So you can see right there, that's pretty much what you like. That's right, just about right. And we're going to Control J that by Shift and right clicking on both those, and Control J to link those. Anyway, so now let's get this out of our picture real quick. We have our model. We're going to add a modifier, array, and you can see it created another one. If I do count 2, 3, 4, basically offsets it at a relative distance. So we're actually going to remove this on the top. Nope, put 0 on the x or on the y-axis. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was the x-axis. So it was offsetting it over to the x. We're going to do the z-axis one, and that'll bring it just over what we need. We have multiple bricks. Let's change the count a little bit. So what that did was basically we changed our offset from being side to side to bottom to top. So now we've offset it, and we have a few of our bricks. You can see right there. So we're going to move this up a little bit. Do the same thing. We're going to do Shift S, cursor to active, Shift S, cursor to, oh, it doesn't really matter, cursor. I was going to say cursor to grid, but we're not technically exactly on the grid. So I'm going to go back to Control, numpad 7 for bottom view. Click the little orange centerpiece so it goes to the bottom of that. Go back to our 3D view here. We're going to add an empty with Shift A and plane axes, so it's the same exact process from here on out. So you guys don't even have to watch the rest if you don't want to. You already know what we're going to do. So you can actually accept. Actually, no, we're not going to accept the modifier yet. Cancel what I just said. We're going to add the simple deform. Oh, let me rotate this on the y-axis 90 degrees. Go back to this object. We're going to do simple deform. Bend origin, have it as the empty, and then 180 degrees. And there you have it. You have a nice brick arch. Look at that. Beautiful. If you want to change the size of that, you can. You know, the distance. You can also resize this just slightly. So yeah. And if that doesn't, that might not rotate correctly, we can just accept all the values and rotate that like that after we accept everything, because if you rotate it without accepting, it'll kind of deform it. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's how you make two different types of arches. You have one like a brick style, or regular arch, and you guys can do this with pretty much any other object. So good luck, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.